professionals working in a wide variety of life planning areas joining us for today's program. Throughout the United States, from coast to coast and south to north and everywhere in between. Plus, we have many international professionals joining us from Canada, Europe, and the UK, among others. Welcome. Today is Friday, September 23rd, 2011. My name is Elizabeth Craig, National Program Chairman of the Life Planning Network. This is the Life Planning Network's Fall 2011 National Webinar Program. Financial Planning Meets Life Planning with our featured friend and world-renowned presenter, George Kinder. Today's agenda for this hour program includes 5 minutes of introductory information, the program presentation of approximately 45 minutes, leading us into 10 minutes of question and answer time. Currently, you should be viewing on your computer screen the welcome slide containing information about the Life Planning Network, including the website lifeplanningnetwork.org, where you can find resources and a lot more about LPN. We encourage you to visit the website to learn about upcoming programs, local, regional meetings, and national and international conferences. Mark your calendars now for the 5th Annual International Conference on Positive Aging and our Life Planning Network pre-conference, December 6th through 9th, 2011 in Los Angeles, California. We especially invite you to consider joining our fast-growing LPN community to receive all the benefits of membership. The recording of today's webinar will be posted in the members section. Before I turn the microphone over to Andrea Gallagher, President of the Life Planning Network, to introduce our speaker, I would like to go over a few of the useful tools provided for you as a participant in this webinar. If you would like to enlarge your slides to view full screen, there is a small box in the lower right corner of the screen that you can click to enlarge or shrink the slide. At this time, you should also be viewing a panel on the right side of your screen. If the panel is in your way, you can click on the white arrow in the orange box along the left side of that control panel, and it will minimize the panel. Click on the arrow again, and it will enlarge it. Everyone is muted as we are recording the program, yet we do encourage and invite your participation. Near the bottom of your side panel, you will see a listing that includes questions. When you click on the little arrow in front of the word questions, it will open a box where you may type in your questions. The question will be seen and responded to either in the question and answer time near the end of the program as a typed response or in follow-up after the webinar.
Thanks, Elizabeth, and welcome everyone. The Life Planning Network's membership are individuals from a variety of professions who value the concept of life planning. The first individual to see the relevance of life planning in the financial planning process was George Kinder. Internationally recognized as the father of the financial life planning movement, the Harvard-educated Kinder is the founder of the Kinder Institute of Life Planning. A practicing financial planner and tax advisor for over 30 years, he's the author of The 7 Stages of Money Maturity, considered the seminal work of the life planning movement, and Lighting the Torch, regarded as the premier textbook on life planning. In 2006, Kinder won the first ever Heart of Financial Planning Distinguished Service Award from the 30,000-member Financial Planning Association for his work as an innovator and influencer in the profession. A media magnet for 2 decades, he's leading a global movement to bring life planning to financial planning. He divides his time between London, Massachusetts, and Hawaii. Welcome, George Kinder.
Thank you, Andrea. Thank you, Elizabeth. Wonderful to be here, and greetings to everybody who's on the call. It's just a thrill to think we have 150 people from, once again, from all over the world, curious about, interested in, or passionate already about life planning. So let me describe, first of all, what I'm going to talk about today, and then we'll go into the slides. Let's see, I'm trying to make my slide moves, and it's not moving. We'll get there. I can't move on to the second slide. The title of the program is Financial Planning Meets Life Planning. Let's see. Here we go. Yeah. There you want to try this? Sorry, folks. It's going to take us just a minute. Here we go. Okay. Very good. Financial planning meets life planning. I'll be talking about the life planning movement as it emerged in the financial planning culture and financial planning community, largely from my own experience. We'll start with a bit of a discussion of how it all began, and in particular the first book that I came out with, the 7 Stages of Money Maturity, and then we're going to move on to how life planning is actually practiced in the financial planning community. We will talk a fair amount about the value of it, the economic value, because it's turned out to be a very profitable way of engaging with clients, both for the clients and for the advisors themselves. So that's a very exciting piece we'll share as well. First thing I want to say is that we're a movement, really, that's on 23, and it's in 23 countries, and we have advisors who studied with us on 6 continents. I think there are something shy of 2,000 advisors and others who have taken the 7 Stages of Money Maturity workshop, which is this first slide, and 300 advisors who have completed all of our programs and are considered to be registered life planners. The movement began actually with a think tank in the financial services industry, in the financial planning profession, that I founded with a man named Dick Wagner, and out of that think tank and the discussions in it, I put together this model of maturity around money, and then wrote a book that has sold somewhere around 40,000 copies, I think. The model takes its roots from many different traditions. It has roots in the psychology tradition, which is why you see childhood identified with pain here, maybe not how all of us experience childhood, but the notion being that we get patterns formed in childhood that then impact our experience in adulthood and maturity. The model is a philosophical model, it's a psychological model, and it's a spiritual model, as well as being a model of how money is experienced in our human life and how we grow in our relationship to it. But the model also is much larger than that. It's really a model of maturity in life itself. I took the model from many sources. I don't consider it as being original, but I borrowed many pieces of it from some of the philosophers and writers of the ages. Aristotle accounts for a lot of the adulthood work. Dante accounts for childhood, adulthood, and maturity. Shakespeare and Blake have been huge influences for me in the devising of the model. And both Western traditions and also traditions in the East, the Hindu and acupuncture structure of chakras, and Buddhism also have had significant influences. If we look at the model very briefly, how this works, I'll just take the individual stages, starting with innocence. Innocence is how we're born, and in this model, innocence represents our beliefs around money, which are inevitably partial and incomplete. And then pain represents the feelings that we have around money that are challenging, that are difficult for us, largely coming from inadequate belief structures. It takes a lot to move into adulthood, but adulthood has 3 levels, and they're relatively equal. There's a hierarchy here. Adulthood starts with knowledge, and for us in the financial world, that's a financial planning knowledge. It starts with the knowledge of ourselves in many ways. Understanding is the gem of the model. It is the heart, and it is the act of transforming our painful money experiences by developing ease in the midst of these dilemmas that we have. And it's the action of the heart. Vigor is the place where we get energized and excited, and we move in the world of money and in the world in general. It's a place where the fullness of our being is engaged in the world. So it's a very exciting and dynamic place. Vision represents what is needed in what we see that our community needs, but it's really a place of visionary action. It's the place where, because we have an accumulation of knowledge, understanding, and vigor, we can take action in the world around us and contribute to it, make a difference. Aloha comes from the time I spend in Hawaii with living as I do, surrounded by the native people there. And aloha means the passing of a blessing from one person to another, regardless of economic differences. So the thing that I want to say a couple of things about the model. If you look at innocence, innocence is a place of thoughts and the brain, and then pain becomes a place of the heart that's out of kilter. So it's an emotional place. Knowledge goes back to a conceptual place. Understanding goes back to a place of the heart. And it's the energy of the body that brings all of this together, the vigor section that kind of completes, puts the capstone on adulthood. We see in this model a relationship between pain and innocence, between our innocent beliefs and our painful feelings, that we call, there's a structure that we call the structure of suffering, that is how those two areas get tied up, interwoven with each other. They create neurotic structures, they create karmic structures, and it is the action of understanding that frees them. There's a third book that I've just come out with that's called Transforming Suffering into Wisdom, and it's taking this structure of pain and innocence and moving on to understanding and showing how, from more of a meditative approach, one works with those dilemmas. We've had so many people who've taken the 7 Stages of Money Maturity workshop in financial services industry that many people think of it as life planning, but I don't. The way I think of life planning in financial services is as an offering to clients, is as a process that we guide clients through. And how I think of the 7 stages is as a philosophical framework, a psychological framework, a spiritual framework, as well as a framework of different kinds of behaviors that clients might manifest around money. So it's extremely, extremely useful and valuable to know how to bring people out of childhood and into adulthood and then further on into maturity. But it forms skill sets and understandings that an advisor might bring to a client or a planner might bring to a client. It doesn't form the action of life planning itself. And that action is in the second slide, begins in the second slide. And I'm going to spend a good deal of time on what is that action we call life planning. So here, life planning, you can see that to the client experiences life planning as the conversation of a lifetime, and really so much more, because they experience the ability in a conversation to identify and get excited about what inspires them, what motivates them, what would make their life a dream life, just the perfect life. And so life planning is really about planning a life and freeing up that last 5% of freedom that we all tend to leave aside in some way. So it's a very rich experience for the client. But to the advisor, and this is very valuable for people who are running a business, it is a highly structured, client-centered interview process with measurable deliverables at the end of each stage of the process. So 2 very different experiences of this work. To the client, it's an extraordinary experience, an uplifting experience, an exciting experience. To the advisor, it's highly structured, and it follows, if you follow the pattern of it, it delivers things in relatively short order. So it delivers the life plan, it delivers the life that the client wants to live. The process that we use, and that's described in my second book, the book is called Lighting the Torch. This is the process for advisors, and we use the acronym of EVOKE. And the 5 phases of EVOKE work in order in a client engagement. starting with exploration, moving to vision, V for vision, O for obstacles, K for knowledge, and E for execution. And you can see roughly how they're moving in the slide here. The exploration meeting is about listening and establishing rapport and trust. So it's a place of open-ended questions for the clients. One of the dangers that we engage, if we're going to do life planning for a client, in the very first meeting, we want particularly to completely turn the meeting over to the client, so the client can run with it in any direction that they want, and so that they're excited about it, that they develop trust in the relationship. I mean, if you think about going in, a client or yourselves going into a financial advisor for the first time, what's the emotion that is coming up? And for virtually everybody, the emotion is anxiety. Why else would they seek out an expert to work something out? At the same time that they have this emotional response of anxiety, most people come into an advisor's office with something terribly profound they want to share, something urgent. And I don't mean it's urgent about changing their mortgage structure so that they can take advantage of the low rates, although that might be something that a client first mentions because they have this projection, they have this thought of who a financial advisor is. But the urgency that they have is because money touches everything in a person's life. And so their urgency is going to be around something of great concern to them, or something that really inspires them, that they've never shared before with a financial person. They've never shared it because they've never trusted the financial person. They've never felt that a financial person could actually go there with them. And so the question is whether this advisor, this life planner, will go there with them. And that confidence that they will go there with them is established in the first meeting. It's established by an extraordinary quality of listening, where we don't interrupt. We ask only one or two open-ended questions and keep coming back to them in a gracious way, in a gentle way, presenting them slightly differently and with different tonations, and where we respond, where primarily what we're doing is following the feelings of the client, showing the client that we really are there for them. It's like if the client starts to say something of concern, and we say, oh my, how did that happen? The oh my it might be an expression of empathy. We could stop there and do just fine. When we ask, how could that happen, we're taking the client up to their head and we're starting to direct the meeting. As soon as the client experiences that we're directing the meeting, that we want our questions answered, the client will begin to think it is our meeting, not their meeting. And so they begin to be more difficult, be more withdrawn, to question whether, in fact, we will listen to them and actually whether they will actually get to what they are most concerned about or what they're most inspired about. If we interrupt them twice or we direct them twice, pretty much guaranteed the client will hand the meeting over to us and just follow our questions. So the value of the exploration meeting is to change from a kind of cocktail party conversation where you go back and forth, you're tossing the ball back and forth, you may be having a lot of fun, but what you're really doing is narrowing the field of the conversation to what your overlaps are, to what your relevant interests are. What we want to do here is not find those overlaps. We can find them at any time, much later in the conversation. We want to give the client the room to follow their emotional arc, to get to what they've never spoken before, to what really excites them or what really concerns them. In the second meeting, the vision meeting, sometimes these meetings, if you're working with a client from the middle market, as we call them, the whole 5-phase set of meetings will happen in 1 hour. But if you're working more typically, each of these meetings will take an hour, hour and a half to 2 hours, and you'll have 5 meetings. So in the second meeting, what happens is that rather than giving over the whole meeting to the client, what we've been doing in the first meeting and do much more thoroughly in the second is that we're looking for those moments of inspiration. We're looking for the things that really excite the client, and we're looking for them, and then we respond to them with appreciation, with optimism, with excitement, and as we go through this process, we call it kind of lighting, what we call ultimately lighting the torch. There's a moment where we've kindled the fire, we've set the kindling, we poured on the kerosene, and we put the paper in, and now we're going to light it, and the torch is going to come ablaze. And that's a moment where the client comes just completely alive. They become exhilarated. The measurable deliverable at the end of the exploration meeting is that the client will sign a contract. With most financial advisory systems, the client signs a contract after 3 or 4 or 5 meetings. In life planning, they typically sign the contract at the end of the first meeting or by the beginning of the second. At the end of the second meeting, the client is so energized that it is palpable. They are so excited, and they are going to be the ones that are really going to deliver on the obstacles that come up. There are a variety of tools that we use in the vision meeting. They're sprinkled throughout my books. One of them is called Ideal Day, Ideal Week, Ideal Year. Another one's called the 3 questions, and we'll go through that briefly in a moment so that you have a real sense of what that is. But what the client experiences at that lighting of the torch is that last 5% of freedom is delivered to them. We tell them we can make this happen. This is the purpose of our financial plan, is to deliver that to you. What could be more important to the client than to have the financial architecture to experience the life that they're meant to live, to find a way to free up their native brilliance, their native genius, whatever it is, their authenticity, so that it comes fully alive. And that's what we promise at the end of the vision meeting, and that's what gets the client so excited. In the third meeting, it's the obstacles meeting. Here, we come in prepared for all the different obstacles we can imagine, and we've got many different solutions in the back of our mind. But here again, we hand the solution of those obstacles over to the client, and only if they become bogged down or lethargic or worried or scared or feel that, oh my goodness, this is too much, I don't know if I can do it, do we come in and say, oh, well, what about this, and what about that? You know, here's a place you can save money, here's a way that you can find the time, have you thought about this? And it gets the client going again, and then you toss the ball back to them and encourage them in a variety of ways to actively move through those obstacles. It is a dynamic meeting, and at the end of it, the client has resolved the obstacles. There's a clear time frame involved for accomplishing their purpose. Much of it has been accomplished in just the few weeks that have already passed, because the client is so inspired that they can do this. And I'll share in a moment some of the things that might be accomplished and why it can be accomplished so fast. Finally, the last 2 sections, the knowledge section is the financial plan, and then in execution, this is where documents may be signed, where trusts or may be funded, or insurance purchase, those kinds of transactions. But also, this is about the client's personal actions. It's coming alive and executing on what is meaningful and exciting in their life. So there's a leverage point for this whole work. It's in the vision meeting, and it's really this moment that we call lighting the torch. And it arises as a consequence of our addressing, this is another chart on EVOKE that you could look at, ponder over later. But there are 3 questions that we ask, and we ask them in order, and we have the client either speak the responses to us or write them down. Sometimes they do it as homework. And the first one is to imagine that they have all the money that they needed for the rest of their life. How would they change their life? And it's useful to have this question. It kind of breaks the ice. It's like you win the lottery. What would you do? How would you live? And it's fun. So the client answers that question, and then you ask a second question. And here you can see it's much deeper. And it might be trouble to ask this question first. So you've broken the ice with the first question. The second question is that you suddenly discover you only have 5 to 10 years left to live. And the question is, well, what would you do with those years? What would those years look like? And then we go to the third question. The third question is the deepest question of all. And this time the doctor really shocks you with the information that you will only have 1 day left to live. And the question is not what you would do. The question is reflecting on your life, on all the things that you've accomplished, all the things that you'd anticipated doing and accomplishing and being. The question is, what did you miss? Who did you not get to be? And what did you not get to do? So here again, you can see this would be a very difficult question to ask right off the bat with a client. But using the 3 questions, you can get here. And it turns out that it's in the third question that the financial plan is born. This is where financial planning really belongs. This is the missing piece. What's been missing with merely financial planning is that we don't get to what the client really cares about. So here we do, and then we deliver on this. Now the interesting thing, of course, is, and I'm sure you're all thinking this, is that the answers to this question often don't seem to have anything to do with money. They're often about family and relationship. They're often about spirit or values. They are often about creativity, community, or a sense of place or the environment. And but these are the things that we've missed. This is the legacy that we feel so important for us to leave and to live into, and we haven't delivered on it. And usually we continue to put it off year after year. So if we can deliver on these things, we deliver what the client experiences as genuine freedom. And and the other thing, I mean, we really deliver their brilliance into the world. So these are kind of sample third question responses. So you see what this is. And of course, they're not at all about, you know, buying the home or the second home or educating the kids or funding their retirement or getting the life insurance. Now, occasionally you have those. I see them more than most people because my job right now is to train mostly financial advisors or others that are entering this world of financial life planning. But these are the real responses. Client A didn't get to visit Africa. I didn't have an authentic relationship with my 6-year-old son, or a truly loving relationship with my wife. So these things where they might be close to those last two, but it's not quite there, or they just wish it could be richer or longer. Client B, in similar ways, this is a very creative person. I want to act in independent film. I want a truly successful business. And you can imagine with this person the wildly creative business that would be as well. But also the personal and incomplete relationship with my dad. So what happens in life planning is we deliver these things. That we understand that this is what's most important to the client. And just as an example, the authentic relationship with my 6-year-old son, the client who said that to me, I asked them if I could get them 10 hours per week of extra time, and they were to dedicate that time to their son. How would that be? And that just thrilled them. I mean, that really made it for them. And back to Ben Franklin's frame that time is money. The question is, getting that extra 10 hours, does it come from TV? Does it come from golf? Does it come from outings with one's friends? Or does it come from economic output? One of the exciting things here is that even where it comes from economic output, even where you're reducing your number of hours on your job, when you deliver this kind of freedom into a person's life, there is so much vigor and vitality that gets released that the person ends up working far more efficiently at work. And what we've seen time and again is you deliver 10 or 15 extra hours, and in fact the person delivers just as much work as they are just as productive as they've been before. It's just they're able to do it in a much shorter period of time because this cloud, this sadness, this disappointment, this depression has been released and is no longer there. Moving on to the value of this, and I know some of you are on the call who are strictly in a kind of life planning modality and not in the financial piece at all. Here I want to share some of the different ways that investment advisors or financial planners work, and why is it that for a financial life planner the economics of this makes a lot more sense than for traditional financial advice. The other thing that I would say for those of you who are not financial planners is that there are wonderful kind of simplicities of both investing and advising. There are systems that are simple, elegant, so that one could actually enter the field and do a fabulous job with clients, marrying those outsourced systems with the life planning aspect. But here you see the investment manager, they don't consider the life goals really, and the financial planner, well, yeah, there's the data gatherer in the comprehensive financial plan, but they're really aiming at a number, what you can retire on. And the life goals are often there, but in the background. Whereas the financial life planner, that's the whole focus. It's a meaningful financial life plan, delivering the life you want, and getting a sense that it's really happening now. So these different models are classic, and all of them are fighting with the consumer right now in terms of the consumer's attitudes. This was a survey from Dow Jones. 75% of clients of financial advisors are not willing to recommend their wealth manager to a friend, family member, or colleague. I mean, there is just absolutely zero trust out there for financial advisors, and I'm afraid that the financial advisory services system basically deserves that low level of trust. At the same time, I want to say that with life planning and with financial planning, we're bringing a tremendous difference to the traditional model. I think of the last century as being a century of sales, and what a horrible model for deepening, strengthening client relationship and delivering what the client really wants. That's shifting, and life planning, financial life planning, is leading that shift. So my image is that the financial advice system becomes the highest level of trusted profession and most revered. This is necessary in many ways, and let's see if we can cover a little bit of this as we go forward. But what this is also implying is that right now in financial advice, it's a terribly unstable business environment. And it's and lots of unstable businesses where clients will leave and you have to replenish them. Life planning changes this because it brings that level of trust to an advisor and delivers the goods for the client. So moving on, just to show the economics here, a typical this was a study by Prince & Associates, and they, at the time, didn't know the term life planning, so they used lifestyle advisors, but they're basically life planners. And you'll see that that typically they win many more assets, they get more additional services, and that a distribution stands for a financial planner looking at how much you can distribute in retirement. So that's the financial planner column. And the third column there, the investment column, is for just simply wealth managers, just wealth advisors, and just basically investors. It may be with a commission structure, it may be with a fee structure. But what happens is that the level of trust goes sky high when you get to the lifestyle advisor, and it's very modest in the other areas. So it's something that the consumers really missed in this century of sales. Also, the other thing is that you get many more referrals. So this was, again, from a very simple survey, but it had, I think, 650 people in the survey, and the lifestyle or life planning advisors got 4 times the referrals of the traditional financial planning advisors. We did a survey ourselves of registered life planners. These are the people who've gone through all of our programs, and what we found was that, and just basically confirming this issue of trust, that 81% of the advisors reported deeper, longer-lasting relationships with clients. They also reported that it made their businesses more satisfying, which is almost a no-brainer because it's so exciting and so rewarding when you're experiencing that transformation inside of a client, that exhilaration and that sense of, wow, I can really be the person that I've always wanted to be. And you all can put the financial architecture together to make sure that it happens. But the question that I'm actually most proud of, this was answered by by these life planners coming out of our programs, was that after adding EVOKE, it improved the quality of their own lives, and 88% of them said that. So a huge percentage. Of course, I'm wondering who those other 12% were, but the 88% is a fabulous number. And what that says to me is that life planning works. And the reason it says that to me is that the major training that we do, and yeah, this may echo some of the coaching programs that some of you have been in, but the notion here is that you can't be a life planner until you've been life planned. So in our big, long residential 5-day training, we get 12 people together, and they choose a partner, and they life plan each other. And so at the end of that time, not only do they know, they've watched 12 other people, they know how life planning works intellectually, they've seen it done, they've seen all the challenges of it, but they've experienced it inside themselves. So not to be surprised, after adding EVOKE, there is an improved quality to their own lives. So let's see, another way of kind of framing these 3 approaches is what is the greatest risk, or even the greatest financial risk to us, to our businesses, or to the client. And obviously, when we hear a 1929-sized market crash, we all get terrified. We know that's terribly risky. Financial planners who are in the conversation today, they'll recognize if you don't have a financial plan in place, there's all kinds of problems that could come, basically by lacking adequate insurance, by not having a will, by not investing in an appropriate way. But the last one, the client not living into their dreams, that's if you do the 3 questions, that's what you see. I've never seen a reference to a 1929-sized market crash in someone's 3rd question. The only place that I've seen a reference to a financial plan in someone's 3rd question, and this is having viewed probably thousands of 3rd questions, is with a financial planner himself or herself. So you don't see those 2. What the client cares about are these very personal issues. And what is a genuine tragedy here is, 1929 size would be terrible, and financial plan not in place would be terrible, but the real tragedy is a client not living into their dream. It's not realizing their genius, not becoming the brilliance that they're meant to be, not being the authentic person. This is a tragedy. It's a waste of a life. And this is why when we add this, what a great financial planner, a financial life planner will do, they'll cover all 3 of these things. The piece that they're adding is this piece of the client living into their dream. So we've not really considered it a risk in the financial world before, but it's the most tragic risk of all. And what we do is we understand that now as a financial risk. Moving on to, I think, the last financial piece here. This is just, we call this the client relationship dividend, and this is the marriage of financial planning and life planning, what it adds. And for financial, and mostly the slide is from the standpoint of a financial planner, but it's the most efficient way to do financial planning that you get clients for life. With most financial planners, clients leave in the next market downturn. And then they have to replenish that business. So here, the advisor income stream is automatic rather than constantly selling to bring in new clients. the higher percentage of assets under management, most big companies only get 15% to 45% of assets from a client because clients don't trust them. So these are the big banks, these are the big brokerage firms. They're just not trusted, and they don't get high percentage of assets. What we're finding with life planners is that they're getting 80 to 100%, basically close to 100%, but adjusted down for pensions that they can't get access to and that kind of thing. The way this all starts, skip a slide and go to referrals, the way this all starts is that you get this much higher level of referrals in life planning. And because of that, the closing ratios, when a new client comes in, they're much more likely to stay with you. Typically, a financial planner, financial advisor will close on maybe 1 out of 4 clients. But again, what we hear from life planners is that they're closing on about 80%, and really developed financial life planners are closing on virtually everybody that comes in the door. And of course, the other thing is closing clients in the first meeting. That means that you're really getting a commitment from the client to do the series of meetings or to stay with you for basically at least the next year, and usually that means for forever, for a long, long time. So the next piece is because life planning can be expressed as a process in EVOKE, that it's transferable, it's trainable, it's scalable, and it's saleable. What it means is that you can actually build a business that has procedures inside it that people can come in and be trained in, that other people in the world of financial life planning know. So when you're searching for someone else to bring into the firm, you can actually search for someone who knows these systems. And then that it's saleable because it's a process that it's not just that the client is just attached to the advisor, but in fact the process will work with a new advisor as well. And so financial life planning delivers sale value that's typically 4 to 5 times the sale value of commission-based firms. But you also, of course, get the energized client, the re-energized advisor, and the possibility of really rapid growth with the business. So tremendous economic benefits. The client proposition here, I want to come back to so that we understand why this is such a remarkable profession, why this combination of financial planning and life planning. Financial planning just alone, we've looked at its weaknesses. Life planning just alone also has weaknesses. You know, there are other ways of getting life planning absent financial planning. One could go to a therapist, one could go to a coach, one could go to a life planner who's not a financial advisor. But what is missing there is this final piece, the financial and architecture in place to make it all happen. It's very difficult for a therapist or a coach to cut through the money excuses. I can't possibly do that because I've got to educate my kids, or I've got to pay the mortgage, or my spouse wouldn't let me because of the economics of it. But what happens with the financial planner is that we know the economics, and we can tell the client to set those excuses aside, that we can make these things happen. And of course, the life planning things are not that challenging to accomplish, not nearly as challenging as, say, buying an island in the Caribbean or something. But the client proposition is an extraordinary one. It's very different from your typical financial planner because you have an experientially rich engagement. It is the conversation of a lifetime. I mean, it's a phenomenal experience to go through life planning. Now, you may know that, those of you who are life planners but not financial advisors, but the financial advisory community doesn't think of what they're delivering as an experientially rich engagement. But that's what the client proposition will include as we become known. And I should say that there's yet another book that's going to be coming out this winter that I'm writing on life planning, where I will be presenting this to the consumer, and so that the consumer really gets this and understands it. Right now, one of our weaknesses is that the consumer brand is not set in place. Most financial advisors in the world, and I mean all over the world, and certainly all the financial planners know what life planning is. But the consumer, with the consumer, it's a much smaller percentage. So you get this incredibly rich experience, and then you also get a truly trusted advisor. Most of the people who come through our programs are from the highest level. They're certified financial planners. They're very thoughtful investment advisors, and clearly coming through the programs, they're really interested in client trust and delivering meaning into a client's life. So you get a truly trusted advisor. And the third thing that in the client's proposition is that the client's most meaningful goals are articulated and soon to be accomplished. And once again, this is something that you don't get in the traditional financial world, although you might get it in the life planning world. Number two, of course, you don't get in the life planning world, at least you don't get a truly trusted financial advisor. And then the final piece is that the financial architecture is in place to make it all happen. To me, this is humbling. It's terribly humbling. I can't imagine a more profound profession, a more rich profession to be part of. I can't imagine a greater gift, in a way, to a consumer looking for professional help. I'd like to close with some reflections on classical economics and Adam Smith. These will be more familiar to those of you in the financial world than outside of it. But one of the things we know from economics is, and certainly the financial people among us believe in them, and that is that efficient markets really help. They help to make the economy run much smoother. But the question is that without life planning as part of financial planning, one of the reasons that we're so disgruntled with financial services and with banks, the banking crisis and all the rest, is that it's not been an efficient market. How can it be an efficient market if our financial people, our financial advisors, don't have a clue what we really care about? I mean, that's where our demand is. If you talk about the balancing of demand and supply, that's what we really want. And the advisor is not aware of it and is not supplying it. So one of the things that we're doing here in this movement is we're bringing much greater efficiency, and imagine unleashing all of this, I call it brilliance, all of this uniqueness that people have into the economy. We're out there, the government's out there trying to juice the economy with credit, which means more cycles of boom and bust. But what really juices the economy are the passions and the passionate purposes of people, the vigor and the vitality, the energy, the exhilaration of people living what it is that they really want to live, how it is that they really want to live. What an incredible economic boost could happen if the world of financial advisors was filled with life planners, basically. And then finally, just in terms of thinking about the social benefit, if all of these people are life planned and they're delivering happy families, resolved issues in families, rather than leaving that not finding the resources to make that better relationship with my spouse happen. If they're releasing their values, they're able to articulate, to experience their values, to live by their values because of financial life planning. If they're able to do the wildly creative things that they want, how much more rich an entrepreneurial Apple-like environment we might find coming out of just bringing life planning into the world and marrying it with finance. So my ultimate image is that every human being, every adult human being on the planet should have a financial life planner. If they did, there would be no longer questions about the economic value of our system. There would be more of a sense that, in fact, everybody is supported in becoming the person who they really want to be. Thank you. I think we have time for some questions.
Thank you so much, George, for your honest, inspired, dynamic presentation about what you have really outlined as a truly transformative, your work in the financial life planning field. This has just been an excellent presentation. I do have 4 questions that have come in, so I'm going to go ahead and just jump right into those. The
Great.
First question that I'm going to ask comes from Nick, and Nick is asking the question, for those of us who are not financial planners, what should be our partnership strategy with a financial planner, and how might we frame that value offering?
Yeah, I think that there are many financial planners who don't want to do life planning and who have a big enough firm that they can have a relationship person who does life planning, and so you could easily approach the financial planners in your area and say, this is a specialty that I have developed and I would love to deliver in combination with a financial planning firm. One of the things I would suggest, if you have no experience in the financial planning firm, in the financial planning way at all, is learning some of these, read these books, take some workshops, learn some of the overlaps of financial planning and life planning.
Thank you, George. And our next question comes from Giorgio, and he asks, can you give some suggestions on how to introduce and motivate life planning to an existing client already served with financial planning? And certainly you've provided us suggestions already, but if you want to add anything more to that, that would be great.
Well, this is a whole area. I mean, this really could be a day-long workshop, this question, because it involves every aspect of the business. It's not just about a conversation with a client. It's about your website. It's about your approach to the market. It's about your media. It's about your marketing. It's about your staff and what their relationship with the clients is, because what we're doing is we're shifting to a client relationship model that is that basically delivers these kinds of results. But there are several ways that I would, to cut to the chase here for the questioner, there would be several ways that I would consider introducing it. Probably the best way is just simply to say you're up for a quarterly meeting. Send out an email to all of your clients coming in for their quarterly meeting or their annual meeting, and say, at this annual meeting or at this quarterly meeting, what we're going to do is review your goals, because that is something that, and we've got these new techniques for doing it. And this is something that will help me really make sure that I've got fine-tuned, your savings, your investment, your relationship to debt, your relationship to your retirement plan. It will help me with your taxes in every possible way. It will fine-tune what it is, the decisions that I help you make in finance. So here are some exercises, and then work with them around the exercises. Again, I would suggest that some training around these kinds of exercises is extremely valuable, because if you don't know exactly where you're aiming and how to deliver it, you could end up having this incredibly meaningful conversation with a client and then not go anywhere with it, not know how to deliver on it.
Thank you for that, George. The next question comes from Suzanne, and I believe you've spoken a bit about this, but she is asking, what is the reason or reasons that 75% would not recommend their financial advisors?
Oh my! I mean, as I said, it's been the century of sales. For 100 years, most of what financial advisors did was they sold you a product. So how could they really be paying attention to who you are? And ultimately, sales, you question the value. The market goes down, what you bought goes down. So the focus is totally inappropriate has been totally inappropriate to the consumer in general. And also the advisors, because of their poor relationship skills, often present things that are much more complex than and the consumer can't understand them. Then, of course, you have the banking crisis. You have Bernie Madoff. You have all kinds of people who have acted fraudulently that capture the media, even though it's a very small percentage of people involved. My question would really be, why would you trust and why would you recommend your financial advisor, knowing that they're swimming in this sea of really not consumer-related activity?
Thank you for that. And the next question comes from a person in the life planning field, and they're asking, how do you charge for life planning? And then mainly if the advisor is a fee-only advisor.
Yes, fee only has different meanings in different cultures. As I mentioned, we have practitioners in 23 countries on 6 different continents. In America, fee only can include receiving a percentage of assets under management. So if someone brought a few $100,000 or $1 million into your management, you would typically charge somewhere around 1% for that on an annualized basis. And that's one way that advisors make quite a bit of money in this particular field. But there's big debate on whether that's genuinely fee only. So many people are arguing for an hourly charge, and many people argue for a retainer charge. And all of these methodologies are currently being used and debated. None of them is totally conflict-free, but they are much more free of conflicts than the old model, which was to charge based on the product that you buy. Whatever product you buy, I would get a commission for, let's say. My big question for you, it would be, if you had a choice of working with someone who got paid by a product company or they got paid by you, which would you choose? And if you want to think that they're really working for you, I would hope you would choose to pay them yourself, and that's more along the lines of the fee-only model.
Thank you, George. And the next question comes from Robert, and he's asking, how do you differentiate financial life planning from financial therapy? Do you see them as complementary or as competing movements?
Probably complementary. I don't think of financial life planning as financial therapy at all. What we're adding from the therapy world, however, we are adding something, and that is that we have life planners have to have great ability to listen and to empathize. Those are the 2 things that we're adding from the therapy world. We do not go back and look at a person's history around money. But if that history comes up and it was traumatic, we empathize. And it's added information inside of us. What we add to that is inspiration. So we have empathy, we have great listening skills, and rather than going back into the past and figuring out how come the person has been dysfunctional and spending weeks and weeks, if not months or years in therapy, what we do is we go for what would really inspire the person in their life. And what that means is that when someone is actually living the life that they've always wanted to live, it's funny how many of those kind of neurotic patterns of the past just completely fall away. If you're really living a fulfilled life, an authentic life, if your brilliance is coming out, and your creativity and your values, you're living according to them, there's very little need for going back and analyzing the past.
Thank you, George. And the next question comes from Stephen, and he is asking, how do you market the experientially rich engagement to the public? So what you're speaking about, how can that be marketed to the general public?
The first thing I would do is I'd get on our website and look at registered life planners and maybe some of the trainers who are training life planning, and see how they're marketing it on their websites, because they're experts out there doing that right now. I think that a better way than a website, because a website is so flat, it's such a surface, is to get in front of an audience and deliver these questions, to deliver these in a powerful way with an audience, so that everybody's coming alive and getting excited and seeing that experience happening all around them. That's a far better way of communicating it. As I'm working on this book, which is also a flat surface, I'm trying to make it as experiential as possible by having rich exercises embedded in it. And I'm also working on a consumer site that would hopefully give this kind of experience. But it's the most effective way is getting in front of an audience.
Thank you, George. We have many more questions, but since we're at the top of the hour, I'm just going to ask you, is there a final piece of information that you'd like to leave with our audience before I end with my thank you to you?
No, there's nothing I can think of. It's just been wonderful being here and speaking to this great global group. I hope this has been helpful in all of your movement forward with life planning.
George, just thank you so much. This has been just really exciting. Your holistic approach provides a life planning context to traditional financial planning. It truly does focus on people's relationship with money. Your EVOKE Client Interview Process and your 7 stages of money maturity truly is a valuable framework for professionals from every discipline who want to incorporate a holistic and integrative approach to their work. Thank you again. Thanks to each of you for joining us for today's webinar program. Go for it and keep doing the great work you do to help others. We look forward to staying in touch with all of you. Thank you so much.